We're making a start with the latest inputs coming in on the cabinet reshuffle, which is to take place on Sunday, the 3rd of September this weekend. 5 central ministers have quit, have stepped down as part of a larger restructuring. The Skill Development Minister, Rajiv Pratap Rudy, the Minister of State for Health, Phaggan Singh Kulsate, and other names coming to the fore who've already stepped down. Water Resource Minister, of course, stepping down on health grounds. Uma Bharti has offered to quit on health grounds. We have with us our consulting editor for Times Network, Vinay Tiwari, getting us those updates on what this means. First, Vinay, of course, the significance of this, given that this perhaps is going to be the last cabinet reshuffle before the government goes into elections.
Yes, sir. I think now it's official that the reshuffle will happen on Sunday at 10 a.m. in the morning. The sources have told us that the Rashtrapati Bhavan has now been informed about the Council of Ministers reshuffle on Sunday. Remember, this schedule was necessary because the Prime Minister is traveling to China and President Kovind too is scheduled to travel out of Delhi to Tirupati. And that is the reason why there was this window available before the Prime Minister headed out for his international tour. And now that official confirmation has come indeed from Delhi that 10 a.m. Is the reshuffle, which, as you rightly said, is perhaps one of the most significant ones that has happened ahead of the 2019 elections there.
As far as new names, new alliance partners, there of course would be the JDU eyeing for plum positions here in this after having officially joined the NDA.
That's right. So there is speculation, of course. I mean, what is correct is that the JDU will become part of the new cabinet. There are two names that are doing the rounds from the JDU. One, of course, is two senior leaders from the party are, of course, expected to join the cabinet. Remember, with any reshuffle in Modi's cabinet, it is very hazardous to hazard guesses. He's not known to actually confirm to what most media houses sometimes speculate about in terms of who's going to get what. But what is correct and what is absolutely now confirmed is the JDU will be part of the government. What is not sure and what is not certain is whether the AIDMK will become part of it, and that's something that is now seems unlikely to happen because the AIDMK's issues within the inter-party issues don't seem to be ending anytime soon, sir. So obviously this will become a larger NDA alliance expansion. We will now see another coalition partner returning to its fold after a few years, and of course a serious rejig of several portfolios of existing ministers as well as new ministers in the cabinet, simply because we've had some very important and key portfolios being held as a dual charge, including minister portfolios like defense, which is being held by Mr. Arun Jaitley, and urban affairs, which is also now a vacant ministry because of Venkaiah Naidu becoming the Vice President of India, sir.
Vinay, but also a stern message yet again, and those who've already asked to step down, already having given in their resignation, and a clear sign that non-performers, of course, would not be tolerated in this bare minimum time that the government now has before they get into general elections.
Yes, and I think the announcement of Rajiv Pratap Rudy being asked to resign was, I think, perhaps an indication of the unhappiness of the PMO over the performance of certain ministries. I mean, remember, this was the first official announcement that came in yesterday of him having been asked to resign. Remember, Skill India as a ministry was a favorite and a pet project of the Prime Minister's office. This is something that was considered to be a game changer in the way the Indians would lead into the next elections. And clearly, it would now seem that the ministry's performance was not something the PMO was happy with. The economy has not been in great shape on many fronts. Yesterday itself, we had two very serious indicators coming in, one from the GDP numbers as well as the demonetization numbers, which suggested that not everything was right. The impact of demonetization as well as GST was being felt. And the party is obviously conscious of this going into the next elections. They really don't want a situation where unemployment or economic factors become a big factor ahead of the elections. So they need some key ministries to be set in order, as well as the performance barrier to be raised higher than what they have seen. The other performance indicator, Sahir, as you mentioned, was of course the ministry that Uma Bharti was holding, the Namo Ganga, the Ganga ministry, because remember that was a very, very major part of the election promise that was made by the BJP in 2014, as well as part of the public pronouncements by the Prime Minister on cleaning up the Ganga, and very little has happened on the ground. And they know that this is going to be a very important factor in the Hindi-speaking belt of UP and Bihar. So that's the other big change that is likely to happen, sir.
Right, but Vinay, could there possibly be a change in face in the finance ministry then?
I don't see that happening at all, sir. To be honest, I don't think the Prime Minister is going to have anything to do with changing the Finance Ministry. I don't think the PMO or the government believes that the Finance Ministry has done a bad job. They've been publicly backing and supporting every little move that is being made by the ministry. So it's completely, virtually next to impossible that there's going to be a change in the finance portfolio. Though, as I said, with Prime Minister Modi, it's never good to hazard a guess. What is certainly going to happen is Mr. Arun Jaitley being relieved of the charge of the Defence Ministry, because remember, both Defence and Finance are very important and critical ministries for India, and he's been holding a dual charge of Defence ever since Manohar Parrikar went back to Goa to assume charge as the Chief Minister. So clearly that's going to happen, and that's something that Mr. Jaitley confirmed on his own when he was asked this question a couple of days ago, where he said, I'm expecting to be relieved of the dual charge very soon. So very obviously that's going to happen. But I'm not too sure how much we should begin to speculate on whether Finance Minister itself will be replaced with somebody else, Sahir.
Right. Talking about the other alliance partners, ministries that they've held, which perhaps are being seen as non-performing. If you look at the SAD here, so to say, as well, could there be any members of the NDA alliance holding portfolios asked to step down? Has that happened so far?
Well, it has happened. It's not as if it's not happened before. It's happened in the UPA government. It's also happened in the NDA government. But frankly speaking, most of the portfolios that are being held by the NDA alliance partners currently are not as significant. In fact, the bulk of the significant ministries, the kind of ministries that the PMO wants to be high-performing ministries, the ones which they really want to make a case out of while going into the next election, are being held by the BJP. So clearly, the real talking points will come from the new team that you will see from within the BJP. Not so much, because remember, most of them are either holding junior minister ranks or not so important portfolios, and that's one of the reasons why that's not something I anticipate. You haven't even seen too many meetings between the alliance partners at the level of the Prime Minister happening recently, which would trigger that speculation of them being asked to go. But I think really the problem is more about BJP's bench strength and not as much about the alliance partners' performance, because that's where the key of the important critical portfolios and the ministries lie currently, sir.
All right. Our consulting editor, Vinay Tiwari, getting us those inputs there in the build-up to that reshuffle, which is now, of course, confirmed to be taking place on Sunday.